You heard the spot, and if you're a little late on lunch, I'm going to give you a way to save some money. You're in Johnson City, you're on your way to Jonesboro, you're in Jonesboro, you're on your way to Johnson City. Or you're in one of those two metropolises and you want to go out for lunch, business lunch, whatever. Your only choice, Asian House. It's in the shops in West Market. Yes, between the two metropolises, right there on West Market Street. 11E, 321. I couldn't remember. It is 11E after all. My goodness, I didn't really realize that, what Roan Street was, the Bristol Highway. I couldn't think what classification that was until it branches off the 11E that goes to Elizabethton and such. Anyway, I mention all this because Asian House is open. They're open Tuesday through Sunday, and if you mention my name, Marky Billson, nominated for 3 awards in the Johnson City Press Best of poll, and you can vote for me there right now, and I'm certainly going to boost that up. I wish you would. 3, you got Best Sports Personality, Best Sports Talk Show, and, Best Radio Personality. That's me, folks. I'm good. Anyway. And very modest, too. I'm a regular Captain Spaulding when it comes down to that. So, anyway, but Asian House is where you want to go. I've mentioned this a lot. And I know if you've listened to the show, maybe I'm a broken record, but think sushi for lunch, really. Because, you eat fried chicken, and what happens? Sluggish around 3:30. What happens when you eat a hamburger? Sluggish around 3:30. You know it! What happens when you eat sushi? Not only are you thought of as being somewhat exotic and you're willing to try new things and all of those good things, but it's high protein. It's fish and rice. It's not going to knock you out in the middle of the day. It's not going to be a lot of calories either. I mean, it's going to fill you up, but it's good for it. Yeah, see what I'm saying? And you get 10% off by mentioning Marky Billson, Tri-City Sports Now. So why don't you go to Asian House? They're there in the shops in West Market. Like I said, it's off of Leisure Lane. About a mile down from the State of Franklin, West Market Street intersection that everybody in the Tri-Cities knows about. On your way to Jonesboro, if you're coming from there, if you're going towards there, well, obviously, it would be coming from Jonesboro. Then the restaurant is on your right in the shopping center. Then the restaurant, say you're coming from Greenville. I don't know. It's, same thing. It's worth the trip. Asian House, best Chinese food, best Japanese food, and great appetizers. Tom wanted me to tell you all about the great appetizers that they have there, and I'm talking about Crab Lagoon. You say, what food? If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? I had one friend once tell me swordfish. Well, you want to talk about exotic and cosmopolitan. I'm going to tell you what it'd be for me. Egg rolls. Egg rolls. You heard me. Egg rolls, and they got them. Oh, yeah. Great appetizers there. Check out what those appetizers are by going to goasianhouse.com, and you'll see the hours, and you'll see the credit cards they take, and you'll be able to... Asian House, right there, shops in West Market. It's where you ought to go for lunch, and guess what? Their lunch menu, which begins at $5.99, and I believe $6.29 is the most you pay for it, but not only do you get a discount if you mention my name, 10%, but it's a pretty expansive menu and they are serving lunch until at least 3. I know this because I've picked it up and had a lunch meal between 2 and 3 there. So there you go. Asian House there in Johnson City. It's where you want to go. We're talking about the NFL. I saw this a couple of years ago. I know talking football. We'll get to the baseball trades here in a bit. But talking, and the big fight, by the way, between the Bucks and the Reds. That's been the talk of baseball. Trade deadline, by the way, 3 hours, 4 o'clock. Then they can't make trades. Okay, then the players... By the way, talking about should the trade deadline, a lot of GMs want to move it back to August 15th because there's putting a player through waivers now. I mean, this is pretty much a solid deadline now, okay? Another change in baseball that, I don't know, did this have to be made? Did they have to do this? Was that really a good idea? I don't know. You tell me. But I could see this, where possibly having the trade deadline where it is could reduce some of the player movement. I think reducing player movement in baseball is a good thing because I think baseball does need to tie player to team for identity, be it Mike Trout, be it I don't know, Aaron Judge. It helps them out if Judge is a Yankee, if Trout is an Angel, if Bryce Harper is a Philly, and he seems to be the sort of player they like. By the way, speaking of the Phillies, you want to talk about dropping like a brick. The Mets are now hot, and they've been making some deals here. Some believe the Mets think that, they're only about a week's worth of games away from a wild card, that they're like, well, we got off this horrible start, but we got this wild card now. And 4 years off making a World Series. We got to be able to, got better time. Pete Alonso. Come on, we got to be able to be good. You can see how that works. Anyway, I will say this though, with baseball and talking a lot about that, if you can have fewer players being dealt all over the place, I actually think it's a good thing because, again, identity tying player to team. And while I know that there's a lot of feeling that, it's the big market, you've got to less, I'm not 100% sold on that. Look in football. Peyton Manning was from Indianapolis. You want to talk about small markets? Was there ever a product he did not advertise? Brett Favre used to be from the smallest market in major pro sports, Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's just like number 70 out of 210. He was still synonymous with Blue Jean Company. Or for that matter, the sort of trimmer that you have that gets rid of your, trims your mustache and gets rid of your nose hair and all that sort of stuff. So, he's known as a pitchman as Brett Favre. So let's look at that. I wanted to talk a little bit about, more about football. I wanted to say this, I started off on this. Remember reading a few years ago, what will football be like in the future? And this was in Maxim magazine. Yes, Maxim. Maxim really is, because they've gone from beer to wine. You pick up a Maxim lately, it's not the magazine that I fell in love with. Really isn't. Okay, it's gone from beer to wine. And, say what you will about that. And I get it. They got to now target and I guess they want to have a prestigious and a wealthy audience so that the target markets, their ads and all that. I get it. I really do. But something has been lost now that Maxim isn't quite so bawdy. But a few years ago, they came out with a story very fascinating about what football will be like in the future. And two interesting things that they had to say. One was, we could see 50-year-old quarterbacks. And I thought for a minute, wow, can you keep him upright that long? But then look at Tom Brady. Are you doubting that he is going to play until 45 like he wants to? Do you, no one is really talking about this could be Drew Brees' last year. So, how long can these guys play? And how long can the, Josh Rosen's coming into the league now play? How long can the Patrick Mahomes? I would suggest I think less likely that Mahomes would go a long way because his game, I think a lot of it so far has been his unpredictability, but when unpredictability eventually becomes predictability, and when you're doing things like throwing across the field and all that, eventually, those passes are going to get picked off. So, Patrick Mahomes is the darling of the league now. I am a bit skeptical. Hey, Chiefs might win a Super Bowl this year for all I know, but I am a little bit skeptical of his career lasting as much as some other quarterbacks taken with him. My opinion. But anyway, 50-year-old quarterbacks, that could be in a league in the future. I could just give you that a thought. You're seeing Tom Brady, so why not? Here's something else. They mentioned that the coach would be a serious gamer. Think about this. Strategy, right? Making decisions on the fly and all this. Kliff Kingsbury, of course, the years when the Cardinals hired him because, hey, even though he was fired by Texas Tech, and it was like, wait, he's supposed to be the, next new thing in coaches. He's got a pretty girlfriend, he's in sports media, And he's got the Gabe Kapler abs, and, he says, and you know what? Talked to reporters at training camp yesterday, and you know what he talked about? He didn't talk about the Cardinals trying to go from 3-13 to, say, eventually winning the Super Bowl. Well, there was a little bit of that, but he talked about Madden.
It looks like they're all pretty low to start, so I think everybody has, I don't think anybody in that locker room is probably pleased with where they're at on that game, and so hopefully we can boost a lot of those up.
He's talking about the Madden ratings for his team. I'm telling you, that article in Maxim was spot on. Future coach will be a serious gamer. And by the way, Kingsbury could fall flat on his face. I mean, I'm not suggesting that's not a possibility. The Cardinals haven't won a title in Arizona, and you got to go back 2 relocations in 1947 and Marshall Goldberg before they won an NFL title. That was back in 1947, beat the Eagles. But, yeah, you're like, now one of the things that now is becoming a bit commonplace is just, the preseason and just trying to get through them. I mean, it used to kind of be that maybe, I seem to recall a time where, starters would play first quarter, and then by the end of the game, in the first preseason game, you had all the second stringers in. But, there was a feeling by the last preseason game, hey, wait a minute, we ought to be playing our starters, get them in tune, all that, at least a half, this sort of thing. With the Arizona Cardinals, now it's, just like I told you what the Denver Broncos are going to do. They're going to start their third stringer against the Falcons in the Hall of Fame game tomorrow. Julio Jones will not play in the preseason. Why should he? He knows the routes. Why risk the injury? Which is what happened with Michael Vick, let's just say. Instead, Kingsbury, this offensive mastermind, this guy that the Arizona Cardinals think now that, instead of having, if we can have an equal NFL playing field, his strategy will lead them to prosperity. Well, what's he going to do in the preseason?
Just like most teams in the NFL will be pretty vanilla. I mean, we want to execute plays at a high level and compete and win those preseason games, but we'll keep it vanilla just like everybody else.
And that's supposed to be the innovator. Folks, we do not need these preseason games. Let's get rid of them. Let's go to that 18-game schedule. And I really don't care if it means that, the starters can only play 16 games. My idea, if the NFL will listen to me, is that a rule, kind of a Little League rule, players, maybe not the punter because you might not punt, but all players must get into a game. And I do realize that what that might lead to is, Opa, the first snap of the game, let's put the backup quarterback in. He hands the ball off. Second snap, let's put the third string quarterback in. He runs the ball left, and now we'll put in the first string, and he goes the whole way. But at least those are 2 plays where your starting quarterback isn't going to get hurt. Now, think about that. Just to keep a fresher perspective, I mean, if you have linemen do a series, that sort of thing, there are some kinks in that idea. But I do think that it could keep them, football players, fresher. Why is it that football players must play 60 and starting pitchers can't go 9?
For the Happy Box meal featuring plentiful appetizers and rice around your